in the previous legislation, in the Inflation Reduction Act, there was $80 billion set aside for 87,000 new IRS agents. But what we had talked about with Senator Lindsey Graham and other members of Congress was, and even Claudia Tenney, who we said, that hasn't been appropriated yet.
Yes, it means it has not been spent yet.
It hasn't been in a spending bill yet,
right?
Like an omnibus. Well, the IRS is being called a big loser right now because instead of the $80 billion they were going to get, they will only be receiving, that's still $12 billion for the tax agency, but that's $275 million less than this year.
87,000 new IRS agents? Not likely.
No.
That is not where they're going to be able to spend their resources.
No.
Listen, folks, we have been on this at our government affairs office in Washington. We've been working on this, and I think this is, of course, the bill's not done yet. The omnibus is not passed yet, but this is a big win for the American people.
Their budget has been cut, so their usual increase in budget is going to be lower than it was for fiscal year 2022.
We jumped on when they had the reconciliation, the omnibus bill that they've got now, and then the predecessor, which authorized the $80 billion to the IRS. Fortunately, our team found that issue, and we went very aggressive publicly about it. We talked about it to our constituencies. We broadcasted about it. And that one's now, when they come to the appropriations bill and the omnibus, it's out. They're not going to be able to, they're getting $12 billion instead of $80 billion. But it goes to your point. When the American people see where their money's being spent, you could really affect change because all of a sudden it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Transparency is only useful when it leads to accountability. And the reason that I'm so passionate about transparency is every single person that lives in the state of West Virginia has the right to vote for the other guy if we don't do what we promise, right? And the only way they can ever figure that out is if the government opens its books and says to people, I'm proud of what I've done with your money, and I want you to be able to see it too.
Because we found the $80 billion, it's down to $12 billion, which means no 87,000 IRS agents. Oh, there's a lot of crazy stuff in there. But the point is, what JB's doing is opening the eyes of the citizens of West Virginia. What we need to do is open the eyes of the people of the United States of America.
When the U.S. gives a big tax break to one of these big
what are we getting?
Tech companies like Intel, can you track how many new jobs have been hired in that city? Did they build the school? Have they built the new roads? Did they invest in the infrastructure?
This is our first real foray into this performance-based budgeting. And so all the tax incentives that we give to companies that move in, we now have the promises that they made. So you can see whether they actually created the jobs, whether the tax revenue that was promised came, and we can see if we're actually getting our money back on our investment for all of our economic development projects.
Big win against the IRS. This is your ACLJ at work here, folks.